So welcome to this week's podcast of Women Celebrating Women with me, Franny Kirby. And today's special guest, I'm very excited, it's Jaki Walker. Jaki, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I will. So I'm named Jaki Walker, obviously, but you might know me, or you might want to know me better as Yugen Artistry, because that's the business name, Yugen Artistry. I create Reiki infused abstract art, I guess you say. You might want to say it's modern art or contemporary art. Most of it doesn't represent anything, so that would be abstract. But then occasionally I'll throw a tree in there, so I don't know what you'd call that, really.
Amazing.
Contemporary, modern, who knows?
Yeah, I would like energetic art. That sounds amazing. Infused with Reiki.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. It's infused. It was originally when we started, that wasn't the plan. The plan was just to have some fun. It still is. The aim is to just have fun. But originally it was me and the hubby. Hence, I'm not Jaki Walker, the artist. I'm Yugen Artistry, because there was two of us and we were both going to be doing our own thing. He was painting furniture at the time, and he's a really good artist. He can draw. I can't draw. And he was creating art on furniture, but it didn't go anywhere. So he kind of gave that up, and I just continued doing what I was doing. And it was just like a natural progression that the style, as you will know, the style has changed. So originally it was just a basic pour. And I was watching YouTube, finding pours, all different types of pours, swipe pours, dirty pours, ring pours, all sorts of different things. And I was trying, I think, too many things at once, because I loved resin and I wanted resin on my art. And
Yep.
I was buying inks and mica powders and all sorts of different stuff. And what I was creating was quite nice, and I was really enjoying myself. But then come Christmas of this year, it wasn't enough. I wanted to pick up paintbrushes. I just wanted to do something more with it. You can do a pour in no time at all, and it's quite wasteful, if I'm honest. And I was feeling it. I was like, oh no, I can't. I just didn't want the waste. The pour off is awful. You look at it and you see all this paint just pouring off, and I just didn't like it. And the kind of the waste that you get with your pots, you're using so many different cups, and you've got so many different chemicals or glues and different things, pouring mediums. And it was just, I really don't want this. It took me longer to mix the paints than it did to paint the picture, if you get me.
Yeah.
So I moved on to sponging and using brushes. And I kind of, I don't know, it's really strange. You start off doing one thing and you feel that that's you. You feel that that is your niche. And then it just moves into something different. And yeah, you evolve. And I think that's what I've done over lockdown, certainly, because I was still pouring during lockdown, and now I'm not at all. No pause.
And I think that's really a really interesting analogy here, isn't it? Like how we kind of start off, if you're talking about our own consciousness, we start off in one place, and we think, oh, this is who we are. This is what I'm like. And then we evolve, and then we're like, oh, actually, maybe I'm not, or maybe I'm this as well, or maybe I'm that. Yeah. I just wonder how has your artwork developed? Like, I know we're in the same, we've been in the same group, the Power Manifesting group. How has your art developed? How, like, with your, I don't know, the shifts that you've been experiencing in the last year? What have you seen?
Well, it's really strange, because when we started the journey, let me think, it was, we secured this little studio. I don't use it now, I'm in the house now, but where my hubby still is, he's still got the studio and he's just using it for band practice. But when we acquired that, I'm sure it was at the April of 2019. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly when I joined the collective. And I'd already been in the Alignment Academy and started to speak to people like yourself and Tammy and, the different people that you become aware of. And I just see the two things go hand in hand. It's really a strange one. I'm not sure I can even explain it, but the art I started the art before thinking about the art. So I'm going to have a go at creating some art. And then the law of attraction popped in to the mix. Actually, no, that was before. Law of attraction was before. And then we started to think of doing something other than we're doing. So I teach. And it's not that I don't like the job, I just want something different. So the two went hand in hand. We kind of found one, found the other, and then we just kind of went on the same path. So I feel like as my consciousness has changed, the art has changed. And it's really funny because at the start of doing the art, creating the art, there was no plan for any of these stories or putting Reiki into it. That's all just come as we've gone along. So I was saying on my live this week, I got it's a tree, it's a spooky tree picture that I'd done. But every piece of art that I do has a story with it, and it all stems from me. And it's kind of, I think what the collective did, being in that group, that helped me to develop. So it helped listening to you. I didn't speak much when we were in the collective. I used to just sit back and listen to the different people on the calls. And it's just helped my consciousness develop. And through that, the art has developed. Do you get me? It's really quite a strange journey, and I'm not sure I've got the words yet to explain it.
It's so interesting, isn't it? When we don't, sometimes the experience comes before us being able to explain what it actually means to us. But I wonder if some of it is about when we really start to let go and start to really connect with who we really are, that we can be much more connected with that kind of creative side of ourselves and allow it to flow, and allow, you know, that energy to flow, to just be much more kind of in the moment with it, and maybe not, but hopefully less critical as well, because some of us have grown up with, you know, all sorts of beliefs around art, for instance, but let alone other stuff. You know, I'm no good, I can't draw, I can't, you know, I can't, you know, all these I can'ts. Whereas actually, like any activity, we can all do whatever we choose to do. And when we are kind of in this flow, allowing it to just flow through us, it's amazing. I mean, your art is incredible. It's just got so much, you can just see the energy in it. And I'm not even in the room with your art, but you can just, there's so much energy.
Nice that you can see that. Well, a lot of people have said that, so I'm really glad, because it's hard online, isn't it? When you're trying to sell art online, if people could come and see it hanging on your walls, it would be completely different to when they see it online. But what you were saying about the limiting beliefs and things, my first blog has that, it's called In the Beginning, and that's where I've gone back, and it was through one of Nick's belief tree process that I actually went back to being 5 and watching my dad draw. So my blog is based on this limiting belief. And he was an awesome drawer. He worked on factories, you know, that's the kind of life he led, but he could draw. And he was sort of sketching out of, now can you remember the Aristocats? The film, the Aristocats. Yeah. He was sketching a picture from that book. Freehand, not tracing, just drawing it. And I can remember, I was only about 5. I can't remember exactly the age, but I think I was about 5. And just looking at it and thinking, I want to do that. And so I had a go, but mine was really rubbish. No. And so the belief started then. I can't draw. So that's it. You know, when you're sort of 15 or whatever, and you have this thought of creating anything, that's still there at the back of your mind. And it was only through the law of attraction and through the Power Manifesting Collective that I kind of dug down. And all of the stories begin with some kind of limiting belief or something that it's almost like the journey that I've gone on, the other journey, not the art, the other journey, the self-development journey, the law of attraction. It's almost as if that has given me, it's like the skeleton, so I can put the meat on the bones, as it were. It's given me the understanding of the structure of my life, if you like. And I never used to, like I used to hear people say, oh, an amazing shift. And I never got that, because I used to think, it's how it happens. You just get this shift. And I've started to become aware now of the shifts. And I've actually used the word shift to describe it now. But I always think of it as just penny drops. It's just like a little light bulb's gone on in your mind. So when you're thinking of something or you're trying to describe a process, you now have the words. It's like the pennies dropped. It's like, oh, yes.
And that's a really interesting part of it as well. But just go 1 sec, because I've left my window open, which is definitely a faux pas for podcasts. So I'm going to shut it for 1 sec so that we don't get any more cars going past. But what I was going to say, that there's a really interesting, like when you were talking about the story about you when you were 5, like to be able to connect like these experiences that we had at various different ages, and then just go, oh, that's when I started to think that. And you know, that in itself, that is a shift, to be able to sort of notice and see and have that awareness of, oh, okay, that's why. And then once we've got that awareness, once we realize, then that's when the fun starts, because then it's like, okay, well then I get to choose. And like you were saying, like you've now got a structure, because if you think about it, you get to pick stuff up and go, okay, well, is this something I want to hold on to? Is this a belief that's like, does this actually serve me? Does this feel good? Does this feel like who I really am? And if not, okay, so I get to put that one down. So what do I choose instead? And that's when all the fun, I think that's when you get, I get to choose.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think the two things, you know, everything happens in divine timing. And I think the art and, you know, being in the Power Manifesting Collective, I'm glad they ran hand in hand, because either one without the other, it might not have led me to here. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it's you've learned from both a process. Yeah,
absolutely. It's
cool.
Synchronicities, isn't it? And this is the thing, when I first heard about synchronicities, I was like, I have no clue what you're really talking about. Synchronicity, why do people keep going on about, like, look for the synchronicities? I was like, what synchronicities? But in fact, what you were just talking about are these, like, the synchronicity of you came to the law of attraction, the art came up, and then it's like they've kind of come together in whatever, they've kind of worked together, and your evolution or your involvement as a, you know, in your life experience is also fed into then your involvement as an artist, which is amazing.
It is. It's jolly good fun too.
And that's the best bit, isn't it? Isn't that the best bit? That lightening up, of I can just have fun. That's a great belief to share. My purpose here is to have fun. What a great belief. What if that's all we have to, not have to, what if that's all we can get, if we want to, we can choose to do. We just get to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's just,
and like changing your perspectives, you know, on things like the limiting belief, you know, how you've just said, the structure, your mental structure has changed. So when you think about shifts in itself, as I said before, I didn't see it as shifts just like as penny dropping. That's because I didn't have the language. And then being immersed in the collective, you hear all the other people using that language, and then you can run with it. And so now you've got a way of explaining things. Sometimes I still find it hard when I'm doing lives and I'm trying to talk through a piece of art. I sometimes stop and think I've got the words to explain. It's really quite difficult, but it is an amazing process and it is fun. And like you just said, that's all we're here for. That is, life is meant to be fun. And it's, you know, if you're not having fun, it's about changing the perspective. Like I was going to say, you know, I've got a day job as well. I'm the artist. I'm an artist. Oh, I can say that now, you see. I am an artist.
You're an artist.
And I'm also a teacher. I used to say I was an artist disguised as a teacher. But in September, I'm going down 3 days. So I'm taking a little leap. I daren't yet quit completely, but I'm dropping down to 3 days. So it's kind of like, you know, slowly letting go of the reins to see where I can take this. Because, you know, if nothing happens, nothing's meant to happen. If it happens, great. I'm having fun doing it. So it's, you got nothing to lose, really, have you?
No, you never have. We never get it wrong. We never get it wrong. Whatever happens, there's always an experience to come from it. And it sounds like you're following an inspired path. Like you're inspired to do this. This is the stuff that like really fires you up, that you feel. I'm not saying you don't feel passionate about teaching, but it's like we have different phases in our life, don't we? And it sounds like you're kind of moving from one phase towards another, and this phase as Jaki the artist. And
I keep telling people I'm a caterfly.
You are.
I'm a caterfly at the moment.
I love that you're a caterpillar.
A caterpillar. I like it.
I love
kind of nearly there.
And one of the things that really interests me about art as well, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this. So so a number of years ago, I recovered from chronic fatigue, and one of the things when you have that chronic fatigue is you get stuck in a stress response. So you're constantly in fight flight, and that's why your body starts to work dysfunctionally. And when I recovered, one of the things that I started to really love was art, and I'd never been into art. And there's something about art that when we connect in that creative way, it calms us down. It calms down our nervous system. Kind of like it takes us out of the logical mind, and it takes us into the sort of the creative. And I started doing all these. I was like, I didn't know I could draw. I went to art class, and I was like, I remember like laughing and just going. I wasn't into kind of landscapes. It was mainly kind of people, but I would draw it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know I could do this. I had this in me. But it was just also so like, what the word is, like freeing, liberating, especially when you could get out of the critic, kind of like our critical mind of like not needing it to be perfect, but just enjoying the experience, that flow, and that that energy coming through you as you start to paint. I
think we don't know we can do it because we don't. Well, it sounds very obvious, but we don't try. We don't have that that ordinary kind of, it's what we do. Like as children, you do. So like, obviously drawing and colouring helps the dexterity in kids' fingers. So as a teacher, any spare moments, you're getting them to colour or to doodle or to whatever, because you know the benefits of drawing and colouring. And so children do it all the time. But then as they move through school, that becomes less so, doesn't it? Because it's based on the academics. So they kind of lose that. I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say. Not the skill, but the opportunity. They don't have as many opportunities. So as time goes on, because you don't have then many opportunities to draw, it's just not the thing that we do. We just don't do it. So then you forget that you even can do it, or you can at least put pen to paper and doodle if you can't draw, you know what I mean? We just sort of forget. It just moves out of our psyche that we can actually put pen to paper and draw or create shapes. Do you know what? As a child, it's really strange. This is, I don't know if you watched the live where I was talking about the inner child, and where I think you were on that one, where it clicked for me. Like, we associate fun with being kids. So doing paws, it was like you're a kid having fun, But there was something different about these. And when I was sat there and I was thinking about the inner child and that this tea towel that's behind me with the kids on, the synchronicities popping up, and making that connection for me. Like when you mentioned your fatigue, Just, and you were saying that, I've never drawn and I've suddenly found this appreciation for art. I mean, it was always there, it was just hidden. But I think what the creative process process does, get my words out, is it sort of strips back the layers. Do you get me? So I feel like when I started pouring, I'd had a shift, even though I didn't call it thus at the time. I'd had a shift, so I dared to try, if you like, this thing. You know, I've always been scared of judgment and ridicule as a child, as a teenager, you know, and then I've grown out of it, kind of thing. But you dare to try, so you move past that critiques, you know, what you just said about, you know, that self-critique. Oh no, I can't try, I can't even try. But then you have a go, but then you sort of, that pulls back a layer, and then you try something else and it pulls back another layer, and it's as you're going down. That's what I meant in the live this week when I was saying it just sort of digs down, and I feel like I've dug down now to my inner child. So it isn't just, oh yeah, I'm having fun, I'm playing, I'm doing whatever. I feel like there's a purpose to it now, the child's purpose. And when I was little, because I couldn't draw, I used to just get paper out and I'd draw sort of shapes and I'd colour them in. And now I'm looking at my art and going, that's what I did. That's what I did, but not with paint, not with acrylic paint. I did it with pencils. It's what I did. So
I think that's so.
I do feel you're digging.
I think that's such a beautiful way to also, that analogy of like you're digging and digging, and then you get to your inner child. Because I think for some people they're like, inner child, what are you talking about? What's our inner child? But it's and I know what you're talking about, because for me I love kind of working and nurturing my inner child. But I mean, for people who've maybe not kind of come to this before, what would you say for you it feels like your inner child is? What is it? How would you describe it?
I attempted to do this in that live. I just see, you know, when you think of kids, and being a teacher, obviously, I'm always thinking of them. But even at I'm only year 2, so they're only 7. Yeah. But like when you think of an innocent, a child born into the world, they're just perfect, aren't they? We are perfect when we're born into the world, and we always are. It's just that the world taints us, our circumstances, and because we're human, we take on, like a sponge, we take on the events around us, and it changes perspective. So for me, the inner child is just the perfect. The words I'd describe would be the perfect, the innocent, love, just that. It is just that innocent sort of love and passion for life, and the bliss, the enjoyment. All those words just seem to sit there with the inner child, because when you stripped everything back, that's what it is. That's who we are at the end of the day, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I love that. And then that, for me then, because my experience is that I have multiple versions of me that have kind of, if you think about it, like we were born and then we kind of, as we grow, and like trees, and like one of my friends has used this in I'm happy to say it wasn't me necessarily who came up, but it's a great, where we just get more and more layers. And so we've got different versions of ourselves at different ages, who, like you said, have picked up beliefs, emotional baggage, you know, at times when they weren't allowed to feel certain emotions, or experiences that caused them to, you know, adopt, you know, a certain perspective. And I mean, it sounds like for your art, you're able to kind of like peel back those layers in the same way as you might do with coaching, where you would just be peeling back, and some of those layers might have had a really difficult time. So actually, before we get to the kind of the love, and there's some sadness, or there's some anger, or there's some, you know, grief, or whatever. But when we can sit and allow that and hold them, then we can release that. We can release that kind of old. We can help them, those parts of us, release those old beliefs, those old emotions. And as you were saying then, so my kind of take is that our inner child is our gateway to our inner being. So when we connect with our inner child, once we've kind of let go of those layers of kind of emotion, experience, beliefs, trauma, whatever it might be, then our inner child becomes the gateway to our inner beings, who are connection with the non-physical. So love, bliss, joy, that sense of fun, and then the other thing that also comes to mind when you're talking about art is when we connect with and allow that kind of that energy, that source energy to like flow through us. That's also really playful often, isn't it? But loving, joyful, bliss. But there's always that kind of playful energy that I think we sometimes forget when we grow up, don't we? We sometimes forget that's a or maybe we're even taught that it's not okay for us to have fun. So it might even be that there's a belief there that we're not allowed to. But like you said earlier, when we remember that actually we get to have fun as much as we like.
The other thing as well, like somebody mentioned like the Reiki, but it's all hand in hand. Everything you were just saying, I'm going to try to remember it now, but I know I'll forget. But when you were mentioning just when you're creating art, it's like source energy obviously running through you and so into your art. Somebody asked me once about the Reiki that I put into the art, and they said, so how do you do that then? What is it? And I said, well, it really just is. I don't see how you can't understand that, because my energy's gone into that art. So if my energy's in that art, source energy's in that art, and the intention as I create that art is positive, and is that I am infusing this art with Reiki energy. So initially I used to stand holding the art and trying to feel it. And then I thought, oh, forget that. Don't do that. It is flowing through me anyway. So every moment that I'm working on that art is infusing Reiki energy into the art. It's the intention behind it, isn't it? It's what I'm planning for the art. And the really weird thing is, I started to draw cards for my art. So I bought this. I've always had tarot cards. I've always been into things like that. And recently, when I say recently, 2 years ago, I decided to treat myself to a pack of oracle cards. I'm not sure if they're called oracle cards or not. It's a chakra reading set, because I really got into the chakras. And so I bought this set of cards, and then I just started to think, well, hang on a minute. When I'm shuffling the cards, that's my energy. My energy is flowing into the cards, and it's drawing out the card that I need to hear at that point in time. So I thought, let's try and do it with the art, because there's a feeling, there's an emotional attachment to this art. There's an energy attachment to this art. So let's draw cards for the art. And you know what? It's spooky. It is spooky. It's like that tree, the tree one, honestly, it's called Hide and Go Seek. And in the story that emerges from when I'm painting that is, I'm drawing this tree, this spooky tree, and I'd love to be sat there, because for me, sitting in the woods with the spooky trees, I'd feel at home there. So I'm thinking, oh, hide and go seek. And then it made me think of me as a child, of how I used to hide away. I didn't want to play with anyone. So it was that, that's not feeling supported, not feeling safe. And that's why I wouldn't venture out into the street. I stayed in the garden. And then when I drew the card, at the end of it all, I sort of find the name for the piece, and then I sit there and I just sit with the piece, and I'm shuffling the cards, and I'm looking at the piece, and I'm connecting with the emotion and the feelings and the story behind it, because that's already come. And then I go and draw Angels and Masters, the Angels and Masters card, which is the soul star chakra. And I'm looking at the meaning behind it, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how those two things marry. And every piece of art that I've done and drawn a card for, the marriage between the card and the art is uncanny. It's just so uncanny. It's awesome. It's just an awesome process. Really good. Gives me goosebumps, actually, when I'm talking about it.
it sounds incredible. And as you're talking, I feel like I can feel the energy of what you're talking about. The sort of, first of all, the spooky woods and hiding, and how, when we've looked at our shadow, we're not going to be scared of the spookiness because it's playful. But then you kind of go back to the child who maybe didn't feel safe, wasn't safe to go out. So actually hiding was safety, so hiding away from other people. And but it sounds like your art almost is a way of kind of like exploring those stories, and in an energetic way, finding that kind of release and letting go of, well, actually, I know I'm safe now. Safety's, I'm probably beyond safety. I'm in an energy of just feeling incredible. I feel like love. And then you draw this card with this beautiful, like, you said crown chakra, didn't you? I think it was angels and masters.
It was angels and masters, and it's connected to the soul star chakra.
Oh, okay.
So it's the colour gold. Oh, so it's the chakra that sits above your head.
Sorry, yeah. So that just amazing. But then so amazing. And tell us a bit more about the soul star chakra.
So, I mean, I'm not an expert, obviously. I've just got my little kit over there. It's obviously, we've got the 7 main chakras, haven't we, running through the centre of the body. But then what I've learned from the set that I bought was that there is an earth star chakra, which connects us to Mother Earth, and there's a soul star chakra, which acts as a bridge between the spiritual realms and the physical. So it's where the soul enters the physical. That's what I know of. I mean, there could be somebody listening to this, or when they do listen to this, that knows otherwise, but that's my understanding of it. So, it resonates with the colour gold. There's no gold in the picture. The colours don't often match, but the cards usually match the story behind it. It was quite another example of that was when I first started doing this new style of art. The very first piece that I created was just a rainbow. I just wanted to use all the chakra colours. I've got another one as well and it was a small piece. It was just like a little play piece that I was doing. And a guy that I went to college with saw it on Facebook, and he contacted me and asked if he could buy it. So I sold it to him. And I told him that he could name it himself if he wanted, because I hadn't got a name. It was not intended to sell. And he didn't name it. He just said, "Oh no, go on, draw a card, name it for me, write the story and all this." And so I sat with the piece and I looked at it and I gave it the name Playful. Yeah. Before I did anything else, I gave it the name Playful. And then I wrote his story out. And then I sat there, drew his card, and the card I got was connected to the heart chakra, and it was the play card. Oh. And it's like when that happens, you do go goosebumpy. Cool. It's so good. So it's such a lovely process. It
is.
So it is a thing now. It's like
it's incredible, Jackie. I feel like you could and tell me if this is something you've ever thought of. I feel like you could bring together your art and your teaching, that you could and this kind of the way that you do your art, and the way how you could help others connect energetically with the art that they're producing, and also maybe with the stories behind the art that they're producing, because it just sounds so, like you said, the word soulful comes to mind. It just feels such a beautiful soul connection, and I, as we're talking, I can kind of feel all of my energy body kind of getting all kind of like, oh, that sounds good. And when you're like, oh, I can feel there's a bit here, and when you talked about the soul star, I was like, oh, I wasn't consciously aware of that. Oh, that one, that sounds good. I like that one. But it's
lovely.
Yeah, it's just another exploration, isn't it, of like this physical reality that we're in, the human experience, but connecting it with that non-physical energy. So you're producing a physical piece of work, but it's come from source, hasn't it? It's source that has kind of guided you and leading you in that expression. I think that's probably why I love art so much.
Yeah.
Art, I have I'm probably mostly into modern art, but art just lights me up. If I see a piece of art that I love, I'm just, oh, I could just, look at it for hours.
It is. I mean, I've got a lot of friends now who are artists, and they're all different. There are one or two abstract artists that I'm familiar with now, or friends with, loosely speaking, Facebook. But it's kind of like, for me, when I see like realistic art, when I see a landscape, or I've got a friend who draws the most amazing pictures of houses, the detail in them is unreal. And then I've got another friend who draws this sort of like beautiful ladies. They're almost childlike drawings, rather like my own, of ladies. But the process for each one of us is the same. I think that it is so speaking through as I think that's what the creation is. But it's when I see sort of a piece of realistic art, so a landscape or a portrait, it doesn't do anything for me. It's not that I don't appreciate the skill behind it. I really do appreciate the skill, but it just doesn't do anything. It's, for me, I get lost. That recent picture that you've bought, Salvador Dali, the pictures that he used to create, and abstract art for me is the way to go, because I think it's different for everyone. Like when I was doing the pause, people were like, oh, I can see this in there and I can see this in there. And it used to make me chuckle because I couldn't see them things in there, but they could. And I think that's the joy of abstract art, because people can connect with it in their own way, can't they, rather than just the way it's being portrayed. Absolutely. It's much more than that, I think.
And it's when you were talking about how your art's infused with Reiki energy, I think that we connect with art from an emotional place as well, from our emotional body, not just like with our mental kind of, like, I'll see a piece of art and certain art will just hit me in the heart and the beauty of it all, and other art will be, oh my god, there's so much anger in that, or it feels really kind of like powerful, but in a kind of, you can see the sort of the energy that's gone into that art. And I think that's, I think when we're talking about growth and expansion and our own kind of personal evolution on the planet, that's what the arts, and not just painting, but that's what the arts do for us. They help us expand in ways we would never have thought about, that if we hadn't have had that experience of either painting or seeing a painting. It can just evoke so much, can't it? I think that's what I love about it.
Most definitely. That's the thing, it has that an emotional attachment, doesn't it? When you see a piece of art that speaks to you, it really does. It speaks to you. It's what one person sees, another person doesn't. And it's almost like, I look at the art around my room. I've got all these pieces of art that are just sitting there on the walls, waiting to be purchased. Some haven't even been advertised yet. But I just think there's somebody, what I love is, and this is a goosebumpy thing as well, it's like you've created that piece of art for somebody. Yes. You don't know who they are. It's like, but somebody, it's nice, isn't it, that somebody is out there, and one day they're going to look at that and it's going to be their piece of art. It's just, that's an awesome thought, that we're connecting, but we actually don't know who we're connected to.
Yeah, and that's the magic of everything, isn't it? That's the magic of it all, is how we can connect with that source energy, and it comes through you, and you have this trust. So you're doing this art and you know that this is for someone, and you don't know at the moment who it's going to be for, but you trust that it's gonna come to that person in good timing, in divine timing, as it were. That's exactly amazing. That's so cool. Oh. So I was going to suggest we sort of bring it to a close now, but I just wondered if you, before we finish, is there any, like, just one, like a last kind of word or thing?
Not really. Other than, if anyone listening wants to see my art, then they can either find me on, well, Facebook probably is the best place. So either Jaki Walker on Facebook or Yugen Artistry, because that is the business name, Yugen Artistry. So either of those profiles,
How do you spell
I'm there, and they'll be able to see everything. Yugen is Yugen.
Okay, lovely. Oh, Jaki, such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
It's been so much fun, and the energy was just incredible. So I can feel it. Like I said, I can feel you and your art in the room with me. So thank you so much. And I will talk to everyone soon. Take care.